vibe.
What's up? Another episode of Real Effect Podcast. I'm your host, Ricardo, also known as Ricky Rants, and a very special episode for you today. So a while ago, not too long ago, I brainstormed this idea of showing my appreciation to my Patreon supporters and also hopefully motivating some of you guys in financially supporting the show. And for a while, what I would do is let people know who I'm booking, who's going to be on the show, which I'm still going to continue doing. But I came up with this idea of doing a podcast with just my Patreon supporters. So I'll share the Zoom link in my Patreon. We'll pick a day and time. I share the Zoom link with my Patreon supporters on my Patreon page. And if you support the show financially, you'll have access to that Zoom link. And then you can join the conversation and we can chat. We can talk about what's going on in your neck of the woods. We can start a little bit of a community in regards to like other Patreon supporters, connecting with people who joined the Zoom conference call. And I thought, like, what a great idea. And I didn't know if anybody was going to join in. I didn't know if people were going to have stage fright and not want to be seen on camera or not want to hear themselves talk on a podcast or whatnot. I didn't know what was going to happen. But luckily, I just did it. It was, so it's January 5th. 7 p.m. was the start of it, Eastern time. Tuesday night, and we had some great Patreon supporters and listeners of the show join in, share their thoughts, share what's going on in their neck of the woods, share just their perspectives on the world. And it was fun, it was interesting, and like I said, it's a win-win for everybody. You know, if you're a Patreon supporter, you get to be on the show, you get to connect with people and be able to get some sense of relief in having a place where you can share your thoughts and opinions and perspectives with people who are like-minded and are open to these ideas. And of course, from my perspective, I get to connect with the listeners and show my appreciation to the Patreon supporters. So it's this whole, I keep saying this whole value for value thing. If you get some value out of this show, then, if you can, give some value in return, if that's either writing a review, rating the show, all that type of stuff. But now I've given one more reason to give some value in regards to Patreon. Also remember, my shows are on Odyssey, Float, Library, BitChute, all those alternative platforms, including obviously the mainstream ones like YouTube. And I'm also on Facebook, Twitter. Where else? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you just search the Ripple Effect Podcast, you'll find me on Facebook. You can find my personal page, Ricky Verandis, or search RV Theory 6. All those places, you can find links in the show description to all my social media accounts and all the platforms I'm on. So super easy to connect with me, super easy to find me. That's it. Enjoyed the conversation with my Patreon supporters, and join my Patreon page to also join us on the next one of these episodes. Thanks again, guys, from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate all the support. I love you all, and I'll see you on the next one. The first Patreon podcast episode, whatever the hell I'm going to call it. Can you hear me, Matt?
I can hear you, yeah.
Awesome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Sorry, I just had a whole bunch. I was looking a little confused. I had a whole bunch of boxes opened up on my screen, some windows. I had to shut them all down.
Awesome. Oh, this is cool because I actually thought I was going to talk to myself for like at least 30 minutes before anybody showed up. Well, thanks for being with me, guys. I really appreciate it. Wow, more people are jumping in.
Yeah, this is a great idea.
Yeah, it's I was trying to find creative ways of one, showing my support, and also and then I'm like, well, this is also a great way of connecting with people, because so many of the listeners are from different parts of the US or different parts of the world. It's a great way of just seeing what people are up to, what's going on in their neck of the woods, what they like or don't like about the show, or whatnot, any feedback you might have that you want to share. So I figured, why not do this? And I don't know if anybody's ever done these specifically. And then again, like I've told people, like, I'm going to end up sharing these episodes on the RSS feed. So literally, like, it's your chance of being on the show, kind of, So it's awesome to do this. What's up, Mariah? We're rolling. Everybody, we're recording. We're rolling. So I guess as people jump in, do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Kind of let me know where you're from and whatnot. Matt, you were the first one here. You want to jump in first?
Yeah, sure. I'm Matt. I'm from New Hampshire, so not too far away from you.
Oh,
Chef by day, and Tad by night, and day too, I guess. So.
yeah, that's a full-time job. Yeah.
Oh yeah, full-time job, definitely.
And the girls, you guys want to jump in and let us know where you guys are from?
Sure, I'll go first. My name's Mariah. I'm in Eugene, Oregon, so a little bit further away from you guys. But I teach yoga, and that's about it. Do a lot of landscaping work and stuff like that. So I've only been listening to your show for about a month, but I've really gotten value out of it. So, and I enjoy the value for value structure that you put out there. So thank you for doing that. And yeah, happy to be part of it.
Well, thanks for listening. Actually, Matt, real quick before, how long have you been listening to the show? Just curious.
Oh, since early 2020. Yeah, I got turned on to you from Tinfoil Hat, Sam Tripoli's show.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. That's. Would you also like to introduce yourself, Ash?
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. Ashley, I'm actually from California, so representing North Orange County. See, I've been a listener probably since last year. Also got to know you from Tinfoil Hat, Sam Tripoli, and then Union of the Unwanted, big fan. I love when you guys do that. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, guys. I appreciate it, because like I said, talking to myself for too long would suck. But so some of you guys, that's a cool thing of the union. Well, let me get some feedback, because that's one of the things that we've been kind of going back and forth behind the scenes with, like, Sam, Charlie, and Mike. I like the big format with, like, a lot of guests, because it is like, I don't know, it's like one, it kind of gives the feel of a community and a hangout, and like you kind of feel like you're a part of something, because that that term unwanted, I think a lot of us, especially now in 2020 more than ever, we kind of feel like anybody who's going against the mainstream narrative, you kind of feel like you're on the fringe. You kind of feel like an outsider, because it's like everybody around me is falling for this bullshit. Like, you kind of feel like you're on an island by yourself. And then when you see this community come together, I think it does give people like a sense of like, oh, I'm not going crazy. I'm not the only one who feels this way. So there's been this little internal, I guess, debate, for lack of a better term, about like how many people should be on or whatnot. The last one we had with a Memory Hold and a couple other people, it was a smaller a group, was nice, but I also like the bigger ones. Is there one that you guys prefer? Like, do you like the bigger groups, or do you like the smaller groups?
Well,
Oh, we're losing you.
No.
Oh, Mariah, no. Well, we'll give her a second to jump back in. But
am I there? Am I coming through?
Yeah, jump in, Matt. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't cut off Ash, did I?
No. Mariah, we lost you for a second, and I think she's gonna attempt to come back in. But yeah, do you want to jump in, Matt? You want to?
I like the big format. I like it because it gives me something to dig into after on who each of the people are that are on there. So as long as the show notes are good and everybody's there, it helps you guys out, getting your voice out to everybody, and hearing the different opinions, because it's nice to get all those people together that, some may think one way about the president and some may think one way about Q, but everybody kind of gets together and talks and has a good time and spreads some knowledge. It's nice.
Yeah, I think that's important too. Like, just the idea that, like, we get to kind of network, because a lot of the people who participate, they have their own shows anyways. So like if somebody wants them, like I just did a show today with Memory Hold this afternoon, and we did 2 hours or 2.5. It's a more intimate show, like you get to go deeper into his personal perspectives and opinions and all that type of stuff. And then so you kind of you kind of get both, whatever one you want. If you want the big roundtable discussion, you can have that on the YouTube Unwanted. And then if you want a more personal conversation, you can have Tinfoil Hat or Charlie Robinson's show or my show. So I think both are necessary and both are fun. It's fun to be able to have that, to like have people network. And one thing that I've wanted to do, because like I keep saying, like I wanted to feel like a community, because one of the reasons is because a lot of us do feel like everybody around us is tricked and we can't like talk them out of it. Like, what the fuck? Like, does nobody else see this? So it is nice to kind of have that community feeling and have people also like have people exposed to some new podcasters and whatnot, and some unknown ones, some up and coming ones, like help them out. Truthzilla, I know, I think it was Mariah, you said you're from Oregon. You're not too far from Truthzilla. They're also from the same town. So it's cool to help like them out and let them like be exposed to some new listeners. And then we can all kind of help each other out. The cool thing about this community is like nobody feels like they're competing with each other. It's actually the opposite. Like we all feel like, hey, if they succeed, I succeed. We all help each other out. And if we're all fighting for the same thing, like it doesn't matter if we disagree on certain things. We've had people who are like Q people on the show. We've had people who are anti-Q people or not Q people. To me, that's not really that important. Like if we're fighting for the same things and you have something to offer in regards to research, then maybe we disagree on a couple things, but we're still on the same team, So James, you want to jump in? You're I know
I've been coming and going. My apologies. The connection down to Australia has been a bit ordinary today, but yeah, I missed the first part of the conversation, so apologies if I've missed some critical details. But yeah, just thanks for the opportunity to partake today. Ricky, have been a big fan for a couple of months, and I did come through to you organically through those other sources that you spoke about a moment ago. So it's been really good that you've been linking all those parties up, because I wouldn't have sort of got to you. But yeah, it's an interesting time, and I think down here in Australia we're just enjoying, I guess, or not enjoying, that's not the right word, but we're I guess utilising hearing what's happening over in the US and the UK to understand a bit more what's coming at us. I think effectively it feels like it's the same script, it's just moving at a different speed and at a different sort of execution mode sometimes, depending on which country you're in. But yeah, really enjoyed being part of this community and look forward to building on that.
Yeah, I feel like this year was bad in so many. I just said this too on an intro of the new podcast I'll be uploading hopefully tonight or tomorrow. But I was saying how like 2020 sucked in so many aspects and in so many ways. The only thing that I think made it somewhat good was the fact that it helped bring so much attention to great researchers and podcasters and people who were really pushing back against the grain. And a lot of people were exposed to my show and other shows. I know Del Bigtree, like so many shows like really blew up even more in 2020 because the lack of having a alternative just viewpoint on mainstream media or on YouTube or whatever, it made people want to search for those even more. And it really helped. Like once people found a show that was like saying the things that they were thinking and was helping kind of make sense of all this, I think people really appreciated that. I know I did, the No Agenda show, Del Bigtree show. I mean, so many of these shows were just doing great work and helping even me out with understanding what the hell is going on. And I think that's kind of what caused all the anxiety and depression and all the craziness emotionally during 2020 was like a lot of us we didn't know what the fuck was going on. We were still trying to figure out like what is going on right now. So you guys kind of get that feeling? Is that some of the things you got out of some of these podcasters and my show and other shows was like the sense of like, hey, like this is making sense of something that's not making any sense to me right now?
Absolutely. And I think the good thing about the ripple effect, Ricky, is that you sort of keep it at not a simple level, but at a level that, the average person, which I certainly am, can understand. And I think that's a good way that your conversational style, I think, enables everyone to sort of link in. There's some forums, I think they're a little bit too high where, you know, normal people should start these conversations, and then you sort of lose them instantaneously, where I've been able to introduce one of my brothers to your podcast as well, and he's sort of normally not from this sort of mindset, but there's been a few that, you know, you can start him off with, and then, you know, we'll bring in the other stuff shortly. But yeah, definitely.
Matt, you want to jump in?
Yeah, how did you get started in this?
Podcasting? It was
Yeah, and what the topic you're podcasting on too.
oh, just specifically how did I well, honestly, I'm just a super curious person. So
Yeah.
I honestly, like, I don't have any one topic I stick to. A lot of it, like, so it's like it's a pro and a con, right? Like, it's like, in a way, I feel like I have ADHD. I'm like, I'm into, like, real deep into a topic, then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, that thing's interesting, you know, let me go over here. But it also keeps things interesting. I feel like I don't want to get bored with, like, looking things up and understanding the world around me or whatnot. So constantly going from one topic to another was common for me until 2020. I feel like it was over and over again. I'm like, I can't stop talking about this topic because, and I've said it on the show a bunch of times, where it just, as much as I want to pretend like, oh, let's talk about this, and like all this other shit's, you know, revolving around COVID-19 wasn't happening. It was happening, and it was affecting our lives, and it's like you couldn't ignore it. And I know a lot of people, like, I remember talking to the Grind America guys, and sometimes you know, they have COVID fatigue, and some of the other podcasters and stuff, they're like, dude, I'm just so sick of talking about this. I'm like, yeah, but the second you stop talking about it, like, there's a new, you know, there's a new article coming out about mandating vaccines to travel or this or that. It's like you can't avoid it. And I almost feel like we have to, like, right now, so many of these other issues which I think are important, like geopolitics, whatever it may be, I feel like this one just deserves the most attention because it's deep into our personal lives. It's affecting our ability to enjoy life, be with our families. I mean, this during the holiday season, I mean, it's sad that so many people, just because the TV told you not to get together with your friends and family, they didn't get together with their friends and family. And it's like, in the middle of the summer, I was having barbecues at my house. The same people who were coming to my house during these barbecues in the summer are the same ones that are like, well, you know, we're going to kind of stay away from people until things settle down. I'm like, well, what's settling down? What's changed from today to this, you know, the middle of the summer? Like, nothing. The only difference is that in the middle of the summer, the media wasn't pushing it quite as hard, and now all of a sudden they're back to, you know, scaring you and telling you not to get with your friends and family, and you just don't. And I think a lot of people who like to think that when the going gets tough, they'll push back. A lot of them were kind of exposed a little bit. It's just like, you know what, I'm a little afraid, and this idea of, like, not trusting Big Brother or being able to think for myself sounds great in theory, but when the time comes to actually think for yourself and question what you're being told, a lot of people folded. I mean, is that kind of the experiences you guys were having in your own personal lives also?
Yeah, for sure. I guess I'll go first on this one. We were doing the same thing, having cookouts in the summertime, and yeah, those same people won't even come to your door now. It's just kind of crazy, and you see it, and you feel bad, and you just want it to end, and hopefully it will.
Right.
Yeah, for me, going outdoors and just going for a hike is a whole new experience, especially on trails that are really thin. It's like you walk by someone coming towards you and they think you are COVID, you know? It's just so weird. If you're not wearing a mask, it's you get weird looks in California anyway.
And I'm sort of shocked down here in Australia at the moment because we've had, you know, a pretty good run when it comes to this thing in terms of the statistics, if you believe them or not, and, you know, the case numbers and all this sort of thing. But a switch was flicked clearly around Christmas time here because, yeah, the media has just gone berserk again, and it's just, and like our borders are closing, like, you know, people can't travel from one state to another at the moment. They've got to make an application. So yeah, it's just, as I've sort of started to observe with people around me, they're becoming a little bit more concerned that, you know, that something's not quite right, but A, they don't want to face up to it, and B, they, I think, you know, part of them still can't accept it, but they're just not dealing with it. So yeah, where it became very frustrating over Christmas was, as you guys all said, you know, you don't want to have the same conversation 10 times, but in terms of, you know, what is affecting us right now, what is keeping us in our houses, what is stopping us from living, it's unfortunately that issue. And I'd love to talk about, you know, movies and you know, skateboarding and stuff, you know, all day long, and that's what freaks out some of the people I deal with. That's normally what I'm interested in, but here I am all of a sudden raising these, you know, political and sort of health issues constantly in their face. And yeah, it was a tough Christmas break, I think, because of that fact.
Mariah, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just gonna jump on what Ash said about hiking. I went on a hike today with one of my girlfriends, and the two of us didn't wear masks, and everyone else is wearing masks. And it's just that it's that exact same scenario where you walk by people and you get these like evil dagger glares at you, like they just like are they are angry at you and upset at you, and it's just ridiculous. We're outside. It makes no sense. And the thing about that, it's so polarizing and so divisive, and that's why I appreciate things like this and things like the Union of the Unwanted, because the only power we have is when we band together. You know, the only way that we can make any difference is when we don't believe that we're in it alone, because it can feel super hopeless when we feel like we're in it alone. And you go out into the world and you're like, am I freaking going mad? How is everyone drinking the Kool-Aid? Like, I don't understand why everyone is falling for this. It makes no sense. And logic doesn't apply. That's the thing I have to remind myself is I could all day long, I could go to these people and say, does this make sense? You know, does it feel true in your heart? Does it really, like, if we put 2 and 2 together, does it equal 4, or does it not make any sense at all? And they're not even willing to have the conversation. You know, that's just absolute crazy making, and that can feel very hopeless in a way. And so that's why I think this, and that's what I wanted to mention about the Union of the Unwanted, is it proves that there is like a band of people. And I know that you know, and each of the people that you interview also, it proves that, you know, I'm not alone in the way that I see the world, and networking in this way, which is why I wanted to be part of this, because that's where I get hope, you know, is by connecting with people who see it in a similar way, because that's the only way that we can make any change, is if we together resist what they're trying to put on us, because there are way more of us than there are of them. You know, and if we don't listen to them, if all of us don't wear masks, what are they going to do? You know, but if everyone wears masks, then you know, then I'm the bad guy, you know, by not wearing a mask, or so it seems. And so yeah, that's just that's what I appreciate about just this group of people right here in the Union of the Unwanted, and any other, you know, groups of people that are banding together and pushing back, because we need to have some sort of resistance. As long as we put a mask on and shut the fuck up and keep doing what we're told, that normalizes the power that we're giving them, and then that's just going to keep incrementally ramping up. You know, at some point we have to say, you know, I've had so many conversations with my friends where they're like, why can't you just put a mask on? And I'm like, it's not even I mean, it is about the masks, because they're dehumanizing and all that, you know, but it's not only about the masks, because the masks are just an entry into giving over power over what we put on our body and how we relate to each other, you know? So I appreciate you all for that.
Yeah, that's a huge issue with just the psychological effect it's having on us being social creatures. We can't go anywhere without, like, before you ran into somebody you haven't seen in a while, there was some sense of like excitement, and it's a pleasant little interaction. And now every interaction is awkward. Like, you don't know, like, can I get close to this person? Can I put my mask down? If I'm not wearing a mask, are they gonna get mad at me? Is it gonna be weird? It just, you know, we're such social creatures, and you've taken, I mean, even something, and I've said this on the show, just a smile, how pleasant it is to like run into somebody that you haven't seen in a while, and they smile at you, and it's nice to see each other. And, you know, it becomes this ripple effect of positive energy, because now you're in a better mood and all this stuff. You've taken that away from humans, you know, and we don't even have that. And so it's just, and like you said, it's not just about the mask, it's about what it stands for. It's like, okay, we'll wear a mask, and then it's like, what's next? You know, in Massachusetts where I live, it's the same thing, where like it was before, like, okay, you only had to wear masks if you're within 6 feet of people. Then you had to wear a mask if you were anywhere in a store or whatever. Then it's, you know, like a couple months ago, or maybe around, yeah, sometime in November, maybe, they decided that you have to wear a mask if you're anywhere in public at all, ever, by yourself. Now, I'm like, do you see how this escalates? Like, if you don't put your foot down, this is where it goes. And the saddest part is, at least initially, people were arguing science, like people were saying, well, scientifically it proves that a mask could do that. And now it's just like, oh, wear one because we're told to. Like, where's the science in having to wear one in a car or going hiking by yourself or any of these things? Like, it's not even about science anymore. Like, it's sad that we're not even forcing them to at least give us a bullshit excuse. Like, they don't even bother. Like, now they're just saying this is the new regulation, and they're not even giving you some nonsense scientific reasoning for it. They're just like, okay, this is the new rule, and we're just like, okay, we're accepting it, and we're not even requiring any more justification for it. And I think that's sad. But do you guys think that, like, it's going to eventually, you're going to push people so far they're going to be like, finally, I've had enough of this, regardless who's right or who's wrong, or if it's the left wing or the right wing who wants this or doesn't want this? Like, it's not even political. I'm just tired of this lifestyle of, like, not being able to see friends and family and wearing masks everywhere, and I just want things to be normal. Do you think that moment's going to come eventually?
It has to, but I just don't know how far we have to get before that reaches. Because again, I thought, towards the end of last year here in Australia, others were sort of reaching that point. Obviously, the sort of people on this call now, we were probably at that point, very early in the piece. But again, the slightest bit of hysteria from the media, the slightest couple of headlines here, and bang, as you said before, the good people or the smart people that I thought, they're straight back at the front of the queue, giving the death stares about the masks and things. So I really hope that point is sooner rather than later, but I do get worried that it will be a more of a painful process for them to reach that state. But fingers crossed, and I'm hoping that's not the case.
Yeah, I would like to think that people would get to a point, a break point sooner rather than later. But it's been unfortunate seeing this sort of sheeple mentality that when fear is so impenetrated, it's so deeply embedded into a person. Like, I think that people are going to be wearing masks beyond when we're required to anymore, just because it's so normalized at that point. I was on Reddit the other day. There was some Reddit thread about, the question was, will you still wear masks after they're not required? And all of the comments were like, yeah, I'm totally still going to wear masks because it's helping me with my allergies and it's so convenient. It's fine if I have zits on my face now because I have a mask on. I don't have to put lipstick on anymore. And it's just like mind-boggling to consider how these people are justifying that this is okay, especially when I consider the effect to the next generation. Babies not being able to see faces, young children not being able to see faces. That's going to have a serious impact on how the next generation, depending on how long this goes, that's going to have a serious impact on how the next generation is able to communicate with one another, because being able to see each other's facial expressions is a huge part of communicating, and body language is a huge part of communication. And so it's like, I don't know if it's that people don't understand the harmful effects that this has on society, or because the media doesn't talk about that at all. The media is not going to talk about how how to counter some of the harmful effects of a general mask mandate. So people aren't even aware of, unless they are somewhat awake to what's going on. People aren't really aware of how masks are tearing the fabric of society, in many, many ways. So I'd like to think that people wake up to that and make change, but it seems like people are just willing to stay asleep. Although on the other hand, I do see, it seems like from the podcasters and people in this sort of area, it seems like everyone's getting way more followers, and like there is this whole wave of people waking up to what's happening. And so that does instill hope and faith in me that if this group, gets large enough, then people, the sheep won't be able to ignore it anymore at some point, if our part, if our proportion of the population continues to increase in the way that it seems like is happening right now. So that gives me a little bit of hope for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that does give me a little bit of hope that all these shows, especially the ones that have been focused on these issues, their popularity has been increasing, and that's even with all the censorship issues and shadow banning and all these other things. I think it's getting to the point where those alternative websites are going to be the ones that people use primarily for research now. People aren't going to go on YouTube or Google. They're going to go on Odyssey. They're going to go on BitChute. They're going to go on those places because that's where the alternative perspectives are. You know, Parlor or whatever it may be. I know Parlor has its own issues because, you know, some people think that it's just like it went completely right and it's all the, you know, people on the right on there. But I mean, you can make the argument that Twitter and YouTube's going to be just people on the left. So, I mean, I guess they both have their issues in regards to kind of creating a little bit of an echo chamber. I like to explore all ideas. So it doesn't, you know, to me, like just because you're on the left or right or wherever you may be politically, if you have something to offer, I'm willing to listen. You know, it doesn't mean that I'm going to dismiss what you have to say. What's going on in New Hampshire, Matt? Like, I know that like one thing about talking to people from overseas, you know, it's like James is from Australia, and during this whole lockdown, I had a lot of people from like the UK and different parts of Europe hit me up, and they're like, you know, I don't see what's going, you know, I can't see the same thing happening in the US, like what's going on here, because you guys have this like this very like revolutionary type of philosophy deep rooted in your culture and your history and whatnot. And New Hampshire, of course, you know, live free or die. I mean, it's on the fucking license plate. You know, nothing. I mean, if I live in New Hampshire, I would never be more proud of that than right now. Like just the fact that that's literally on our license plate, how important that phrase is. Are people? Is it just on the license plate, or are people really embracing that type of philosophy and thinking in New Hampshire?
I think a lot of people do. It's slowly eroding away, though. You have more and more people coming from other states that are running away from things like what's happening in New York or Massachusetts. People are coming up to because they're realizing now that they can work remotely. So they're slowly bringing in politics into the state that aren't sort of native to the state. We have a governor kind of like yours in Massachusetts. You got Charlie Baker. We got Chris Sununu. Sununu's just a pushover in sheep's clothes. You know, he pretends to be for gun rights and whatnot, but he's not. He's slowly, you know, pushing the state further and further towards less rights, less freedoms. Some towns like the town I live in, where I live, we're zoned that you can't have chickens. So that's not very live free or die, you know. But you know, a couple miles down the road in the northern part of the town, you know, you can do stuff like that there. There's problems where they try and tax you on water barrels for your drains and stuff like that. So it's more or less just becoming kind of a slogan, and slowly eroding away as areas become more urbanized and more popularized, or populated. You know, but the further north you go, it gets into some, you know, pretty rural, quiet country bumpkin life where you can do what you want as long as, you know, you don't bother me, I'm not going to bother you. And that's really the way it should be, you know?
Yeah, I mean, shouldn't it? That seems like such a like. How can people not be on board with that philosophy? You know, that's why
you can't argue with it.
yeah, you can't argue with it. It's like, do what you want to do. Just let me do what I want to do. And that's what a lot of us who are kind of pushing back have been saying. It's like, listen, if you want to wear a fucking mask everywhere, then wear one. Like, I'm not restricting you from wearing one. Just don't make me wear one. And you know, again, like it's gotten to the point where I think Brett Venat, when he was on my show with Richard Grove, one of the shows he was on, he was talking about how like we live in like a post fact world. And I feel like we're kind of there where like you can show people evidence that like the government's could care less. I mean, look at the COVID relief bill, how ridiculous that is. Like, do you guys need more evidence that none of this is about COVID, or it's definitely not about COVID relief? I mean, literally none of the money, you know, like 2% of the money actually went to anything related to COVID. Everything else went to like foreign governments and programs and this and that, and they called it the COVID relief bill. Like, how much more evidence do you need that they don't care about you? You know, that you know what they're doing isn't. And that's the crazy thing is, prior 2020, like you talk to the typical person and you just said in general, like, hey, do you think the government like is corrupt and they really have hidden agendas, and it's more about who's, you know, paying for their you know, which lobbyist is putting money in their pocket or paying for their campaigns or whatnot? Everybody would be on board. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, like we all agree that's the way that's the system that exists. And yet now all of a sudden when the government tells you something, it's because they're protecting you and they care about you, and they just want what's best for you. It's like, what the fuck happened? Like, snap out of it. But I think a little bit is the power of fear, right? Like this idea that I remember, I don't know if you guys listened to the show I did with Scott Horton, but when I had Scott Horton on during the lockdown, he was kind of a little bit like drinking the Kool-Aid, a little bit thinking like this was really maybe as scary and as dangerous as we're being told. And we had a very civil discussion about it. And to me, it was a little bit scary to see a libertarian who is, you know, like very well known in the libertarian world, like actually believing the government. You know, when he's done some of the best research in regards to like the government selling you on wars, which also leads to deaths and whatnot. Like, so there's all this evidence that he knows that the government doesn't give a shit if people are traumatized, you know, during wars or serving for unjust conflicts overseas. But yet he, like, to think that like, oh wait, now you think that they care about us, like it's just I think, you know, a lot of these political issues and other social issues, like it wasn't as scary as a virus, because a virus is like, oh wait, this could actually kill me or a loved one or my family or whatever. So it brought the amount of fear and anxiety to a whole nother level, where it's like, if I'm wrong about this political issue, like nobody dies. But and then if I'm wrong about this, if I think that that this is bullshit, that it's just a bad flu and I'm wrong, like it could harm myself, I could harm a loved one. And so I think that's why it worked so well, because it was like people were so afraid of being wrong that and actually harming a loved one, that people were like, you know what, I don't know what to believe, so I'm going to go along with it. And that happened over and over again, where people are just like, well, you're kind of right, you're making a lot of sense, but I don't know what to believe, so to stay on the safe side, I'm just going to go along with it. So did you guys have a lot of those like similar conversations with people in your personal lives, where just like you felt like you're getting through to them, but and then the fear of being wrong was so strong because of like what the consequences could be, you know, somebody obviously passing away or whatnot, that they just gave in to the propaganda?
Yeah, what I found is that people are, when I have these conversations with people, a lot of the response is that they don't have the time or energy to fight back in a way, you know, like they're just like, whatever, I've got a lot of shit that I'm dealing with. My business is closing down. I can't pay my bills. Like I can't worry about masks. So I'm just going to wear a mask because it's on the bottom of my priority list right now. And on the other side, like you mentioned, they're appealing to our morality. They're saying it's not about what you want. If you don't do it, then you're going to be hurting other people. And so that's where the power is in your care for others. And that's how other people look at it also. If I'm not wearing a mask, it must mean that I want them to catch a virus, which is also so bonkers because we're covered in viruses all the time. Viruses are everywhere. They're in the air. They're on every surface everywhere all the time. Like viruses are such a part of nature. And this virus is causing, you know, more deaths or whatever, but the deaths that are being caused are because the virus is exploiting the imbalance in the ecology that we have created through our human behavior. You know, the areas where there are these large hot spots or whatever, are where there's a ton of air pollution and a ton of like Roundup being used and stuff like that. So it's this sort of like poetic justice is what this guy Zach Bush, who explains it in a really, really beautiful way, you know, that the virus is doing what it does naturally. We have harmed ourselves through our behavior and through the ways that we have just created such imbalance and everything. So it's like we're so afraid of viruses when it's just, we shouldn't be afraid of viruses. We should change our behavior so that they can't kill us. You know, like if we're more balanced with the ecosystem, if everything's a little bit more balanced, like we're not going to die so much from viruses, because like, I mean, it's our own fault in a way, you know. But sorry, I kind of went on a different tangent from what your question was. But yeah, I do get that response that people are like, I'm just going to put a mask on because it's not worth my energy to fight it. And for me, I tell them it is worth my energy to fight it. You know, I am going to fight it, and I am going to keep talking to you about it, and I am going to keep talking to everyone about it, because it is worth it. You know, I do believe that that if I don't fight back, then I'm part of the problem, and I'm not willing to lie down and just let this bowl over me like this, because it is incremental. And one thing that I'm curious if other people are aware of is in New York, they're introducing a bill today or tomorrow or something about these quarantine camps, where if the governor has a state of emergency because of a virus or epidemic or whatever, that if you're deemed to be dangerous to society, they can just lock you up and just put you in a quarantine camp based on whether or not you're going to get a vaccine or anything like that. Like this is next level control of people. And it's terrifying to think about, because when you talk about how it sort of ripples out, like it might start there, and then we need to be on the lookout in our respective states for other things like that coming up also, because you know, it is sort of a just a timing issue of how soon we're all being faced with these same levels of control. And if we don't fight now, you know, when will we?
I was just going to add quickly to those comments that I think what I've been experiencing is, you know, sort of challenges with how I'm communicating with people around these topics. So there's certain people that they'll check out really quickly as soon as, you know, I sort of raise it. And, you know, often it's people that I care about. So I do want them to digest it. I just don't want to walk away. And then I find with other people, you know, it's less about trying to impress upon them my information, but more, you know, almost running them through a Q&A session to say, did you think it was reasonable that this action was taken? No. Okay, well, what about the next step? Did you think those case numbers were, you know, appropriate for what they did today? So it's just been, yeah, again, 9 out of 10 people I do at the moment, they would just go, not into this conversation, not having dialogue. But then if I reverse, I guess, the way I'm approaching it and try to get them to critically analyze the information just rather than loading up with facts, it's been marginally more engaging. But yeah, the whole you can start a conversation, they know something's not right, but getting them to keep walking down the path has been very hard down here.
So have you guys been discouraged in the conversation? Like has it got to the point where in some cases like you're discouraged to even bring it up? You're like, I'm over trying to convert people?
I am now. I mean, with my family unit, we've caught up quite a bit over the Christmas period, and probably by the last few days, there was no further talk around COVID because it just was aggravating the household unit. I think I've left some, you know, some little starting points for them to ponder things, but again, you just get sort of, I guess, flat because you're not doing this for any personal benefit or popularity stakes. You look like the fool the whole time when you're in these sort of circles. But I hope there is that day where they realize, oh shit, that was, you know, spot on. And, you know, I should think about these things, and it may go nowhere. But again, what else can you do at this point in time except just try and plant those little seeds? And really, you know, people will have to reach a decision this year about key topics. And by then, maybe these things will tick over a bit, but it's just sad that they can't get to that point now so that you can have their support and you can sort of step through this and maybe get to a better spot sooner rather than later. It's just the complicated path we're looking at. It's not great for this year.
Matt, you want to jump in?
Yeah, the thing that gets me is not so much having conversations with people about it. I think everybody's kind of on board with this. Is just a bunch of bullshit, right? At least the people I talk to, and maybe it's just who I surround myself with. What I have a hard time trying to talk to people about is what this is all about and what it's trying to usher in and who the players are that are involved in all this. And that's when people think that I'm just like this loony guy that just needs to go away. And the thing that gets me about it is all the information is out there and readily available and easily traceable through years and years and years of history. Whether it's your own government, the world, anybody, and just getting people to see that. And as soon as you mention the name, like Klaus Schwab, people, oh, you're crazy. George Soros, oh, you're crazy. Okay, freaking look into it. I mean, you want to know what's happening or why what's happening is happening now. Trace it all back to the money, and you'll pretty much find out. So that's my thing. Forget about, everyone knows the masks are crazy and everyone's doing it because they don't want a group of people in their face trying to make them hold up their fist or kneel because they think they're racist. I just lost my train of thought. It's where it's going that I'm having the hardest time trying to reach people with.
Yeah. I just wanted to add to Matt's point, because the whole, obviously, no one's mentioned the term yet, but the Great Reset is, I guess, once you've wrapped your head around this for long enough, you can see that is the whole game, particularly with the lockdowns and the economics of it all. And that's the real fear factor for individuals like me that have just worked their lives and, the whole purpose is to work, and that's what we were sort of set up to do. And now, hang on, you can't even do that. So I think, spot on, Matt. Good to hear you say that, because you get them, and when I'm talking about taking people down the path, they'll get the first 3 steps, drop that one in, and they're out of there. But to me, that's the scariest part.
Yeah, I think what people don't realize, and like you said, like agreeing that this is all bullshit is great, but we have to really come to terms with the fact that they're trying to redesign the world as we know it. And real quickly in the lockdown, and especially Charlie Baker, press conferences, he would openly say the new normal, the new normal, the new normal. He was talking about we'll get to some sense of the new normal once we have the vaccine. I mean, this is when there was very little information about the virus. Most people would agree that we didn't really quite understand what was going on or understand the virus. We were still debating about how it gets to one person to another. Do asymptomatic people spread it? Do they not? Are kids in danger? Are they not? And yet they're already talking about a vaccine that didn't exist yet. Even now, people are like, oh, we'll just wait till the vaccine. Like, and it's, we've said this on podcasts over and over again, but it's so true. Like, science has become the new religion, where you just have faith that this vaccine's going to work. Like, you don't even, people will say, I believe in vaccines. It's like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, you just believe in all vaccines work? Like, what is that? Like, can you pinpoint like what exactly that means? Like, that you just, it doesn't matter who made it, if there's any science to prove that it works, if they even understand whatever the disease is that they're making the vaccine for. Like, you just believe that all, like, in vaccines. Like, I understand the idea of maybe like believing in vaccines as a theory, like how the theory of like putting the virus in somebody, you create the antibodies. Like, I get that, but to believe in vaccines when we know that big pharma are criminals. I mean, I go to the gym every day, and they always have the news on. One TV will be on Fox News, the other one will be on CNN, whatever it may be. And every time I look up and there's a commercial, it's a big pharma commercial. Like, and people don't realize that the news, the thing that you're watching to get your information, is being paid by those pharmaceutical companies. The same pharmaceutical companies that have incentive in selling you pills have incentives in selling you vaccines. And the fact that, like, they're already talking about how things are so unscientific. I mean, I was just reading an article, I think it was yesterday or today, about how, like, they decide that, like, you can get like a half a dose of the vaccine now. One of the vaccines, like, it's okay to get half of it now. Like, they're just making shit up as they go. It's like, you can get half, or if you want to get the second dose in a week, or you can wait 3 weeks, or what. It's like, where's the science in any of this? I thought this was supposed to be precise, and now they're just like, casually like, hey, you can get the vaccine, you can get the second one, you can do a less dosage, a more dosage. I'm like, what is going on here?
Did you see the video of the guy? He was a nurse, frontline worker, getting the vaccine, and they didn't drop the plunger down. They put the needle in his arm, kind of turned it, pulled it out. When he got up and walked away, everyone gave him the standing ovation, like he was some hero. So they're just going to keep pumping us up with, what they want to pump us up for information to get us to buy into what they're pushing, and I don't know where it's going to go. I wish I could have an outlook that's saying that it's going to be, a good thing and everyone's going to wake up. I think we're headed for a friggin' civil war.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of people have entertained that, and I've almost come to the conclusion that the United States is made up of different states for a reason. It's like, okay, we have our philosophy, our way of living. We can live in this state. If you don't like it, there's a state that is the way that you would like it over there. Go over there. And I almost feel like the U.S. needs that. Like you look at the popularity of like Florida and Texas and New Hampshire. Like you said, I mean, 4th of July, I went to New Hampshire that weekend. Went to the beach with the family. It was awesome to like just feel somewhat normal for a little bit. And I think that people have said like people are wearing masks now more than they were around that time in New Hampshire. But at that time, like unless you were I'm trying to think where we wore one. Even in the hotels, like I don't think we wore one anywhere. Like we were at the arcade, we weren't wearing one. We went to the restaurant, we weren't wearing one. So it was nice to feel normal. And that's the other thing. Like if masks work, why are cases still going up? You go to places like Oregon, you go places like California, everyone's wearing a fucking mask. Like this idea of like 100 days of mandating masks, I'm like, what exactly is going to change? Because the majority of people are already wearing one. So if you don't see the numbers at least flatten to some sense, like you can't, let's just come to the conclusion that nothing's working. If you believe this stuff, obviously, as you guys know, I think the PCR test is bullshit. I think the rapid test, it gives false positives, and there's plenty of evidence of both of that. And so even if you believe what they're telling you, like nothing is working. So we either have to decide, like Mariah said, viruses are a part of our lives. Like they've always been a part of our lives. Flus and swine flus and all these things have always been a part of human history. To stop stop everything and pump the brakes and change the way we live for this is just not justified. And I think people don't, everybody's talking about the virus and nobody's talking about all the other damage, like the businesses that are lost forever. I mean, my wife works in the restaurant business. I mean, they've been hit super hard. I mean, it's already one of the hardest businesses to survive in, and now it's like you constantly have new restriction after new restriction. You take a step forward and you take 2 steps back, and there's no, again, like I said before, like and they don't even justify with any science now. It's not like, well, now we have scientific evidence that restaurants are spreading this or whatever. It's just like, no, we're going to lower capacity again because cases are going up. Well, what the fuck, man? Everybody's getting tested. Like, why aren't we talking about herd immunity? Because we were talking about that initially, like, oh, just wait till herd immunity, and now nobody's talking about it. Why? Because there's so many fucking people testing positive that if you believed in herd immunity, we would have herd immunity. There would be everybody knows somebody who has tested positive. I mean, I know like 1 out of 2 of my friends have already had the virus. Like, is that what's going on in your lives? Like, isn't it super common to know somebody who's had it? Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and talk about herd immunity. So did you see that the WHO changed the definition of herd immunity? Like that's just bonkers. You can just wipe out the whole idea of what herd immunity even was for an agenda, And I do believe that all of the small businesses that are closing down as a result of the lockdowns, like that's all part of the agenda. The more people that are reliant on the government, the more people that are, that's taking power from the people. As soon as you shut down all these small businesses, the businesses that are going to be able to come in and buy up that real estate are going to be big businesses. It is going to be the end of small businesses in a big way, and a lot more people are going to be reliant on the government. And if you want to get your government assistance, if you want to feed your family, you're going to have to get a vaccine. Like this is all part of it. So at first I thought that it was like a really sad byproduct of the virus, but now it's like that's the whole point, is to get all these small businesses to shut down. And that's just, it's evil. It's really evil.
Yeah, this is for sure the end of small business, I think, especially the restaurants. So all these little mom and pop places where these families are trying to survive are going to be gone, wiped out, and they're going to be taken over by these conglomerate restaurant groups where it's, or even stores, Targets and whatnot, where it's this one umbrella company. And all they're going to do is open up all these other stores, and they're going to give you this illusion of choice. But then it goes back to the money. The money just all goes right back to the top of that umbrella. It's just crazy, and it's sad, and I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I almost feel like
crazy.
it's the timing is interesting because I feel like the last couple years, even the last like 5-10 years, the popularity of like supporting small businesses have gone up a lot, at least like from my neck of the woods and like the East Coast. It seems like a lot of people are like, you know what, I don't want to go to that chain restaurant. I'm going to go to that little mom and pop place, or I'm not going to go to Starbucks. I'm going to go to that little coffee shop. And like it was like about the quality of the food, right? And the quality of the service, because the owners are actually there and you actually know who is getting your money. They're reinvesting in the community because they probably live in the area. They're going out to eat in other places in the area too. So they're reinvesting the money staying there in the community. And two, that, like I said, the quality, like a lot of the ingredients and stuff are coming from probably local farms and butcher shops and whatever it may be. So it almost seems like right when people were finally straying away from chain restaurants and these big box stores, and you're starting, I mean, in Massachusetts, like around every corner there's like a new coffee shop. Like there's always, and I'm like, it's awesome, because I'm like, one, the coffee's better, and two, it's the owners are there. I know who I'm giving my money to, and when I like them, I want to support them. I'm willing and wanting to support them. Same thing with like mom and pop restaurants. The owners are there, and when you like them, you're like, oh, I actually know who owns this restaurant. He's actually a really nice, hardworking person. Like, I want to give him my hard, my money, my hard work money. So to me, it seems like the timing is perfect for the big corporations and the big, the people pulling the strings, because right when people were straying away from those things, you forced us to only have to depend on those big corporate chain restaurants, because those are the ones that were staying open. Because a lot of times, like a Ruby Tuesday or a Olive Garden, the capacity, if you're 25% capacity, like you can still fit a lot of people in there, compared to like a small little mom and pop restaurant where 25% capacity means what, like one table. I mean, you don't have that room, that flexibility. I mean, there's a local restaurant recently, when they just lowered the capacity in restaurants, I mean, they just shut down. They're just like, you know what, we're not opening until we can have more people in a restaurant, because we can't financially survive. So the timing is interesting. Another thing you guys mentioned that I think is so true, that this stuff is out in the open. I mean, The Great Reset, that book is out there. I mean, you can read about this. And but prior to that, he wrote, what was the other book that he wrote? Like The Fourth Industrial Revolution or something like that. So I mean, this kind of goes into, like, you look at like wars, PNAC and Project for New American Century, talking about having influence overseas and whatnot. You look at Brzezinski's book, the Grand Chessboard. Like, they openly talk about this at like CFR conferences, and think tanks are openly talking about the things that eventually they end up doing. So it's like, it's a open conspiracy. It's an open, like, you don't have to do a whole lot of research to find this stuff and to see that there's something greater going on, and when these Amazons and Targets and all these people are getting richer when everybody else is getting poorer. That's why I will actually give Elon Musk a little bit of credit for like being outspoken about this, because he is one of the ones that are actually making more money during the lockdown. And yet he talked about going to Texas, and he talked about, wanting to open his store or his factory in California, regardless if the government wanted him to or not. I think, we need more people to push back. I think what Joe Rogan did going to Texas, I mean, like him or not, he has huge influence. And I think, Joe Rogan was one of those, I forget who the doctor was, but really early in the coronavirus hysteria, he had a doctor on, somebody who was kind of like, saying, oh, this is dangerous and this is really bad and whatnot. And then you saw him, if you listen to him, like, he flipped at some point and then realized how ridiculous things were getting and how far things went. So even somebody who people find intelligent and open-minded could be tricked into believing this initially. And but I like the fact that he kind of is willing to admit now that, like, things went too far and at least question things. And are you guys have you jumped off the Joe Rogan boat, or are you guys still and you guys listeners? No.
Yeah, I'm a listener. I listen to Joe Rogan. I still like him. I have to hop off, so I wanted to say thank you, everyone. But I did also want to just mention that with the Great Reset, there's also the Greater Reset that is happening at the end of this month, which is James Corbett and a bunch of other people in the alternative community talking about a lot of the same
Derek
things.
Rose, right? Isn't it Derek putting that together?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so that might be, so that is a way to counteract some of these top-down authoritarian things that are going on. So if you're not already aware of that, thegreatreset.org is a place to go read about what we can do to find power in the people and sort of fight back in these different areas. But I'm going to log off now. So
Hey,
nice
thanks, Mariah. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye, Mariah.
Take care.
Yeah, James Corbett's been I think an eye-opener for a lot of us. Yeah, from 9/11 through all these complicated stories. It's probably one of the only, I guess, document creators, I think, that you can start off with a few other people, but he just captures this stuff, and how he never ever gets censored on YouTube, obviously is a testament to how good his material must be, because they can't fault him. But yeah, James Corbett's been great.
Well, I think so. I think James Corbett. I love James Corbett. I always have a soft spot for James Corbett because he was one of the first guests on my show, and throughout the years, he's been on a bunch of times. And his listeners don't necessarily love me because he doesn't swear on his content. And every once in a while, when he's on my show, there'll be a lot of F-bombs, and people will be like, "I listen to James Corbett with my kids. Don't swear," But yeah, he's just, the thing with him. I think one of the reasons why he's still on YouTube, and I think it might be one of the reasons why I'm still on YouTube. One, he's never monetized. Same thing like myself. I've never monetized. And he also, you can't pinpoint which political party he's defending, because when, like, at the end of Obama administration, he came out with that documentary, the Legacy of Ashes, about Obama's legacy.
Yeah.
And then soon after, when Trump got in office, he came out with the video called Trump
Draining the Swamp.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just one of those things where it's like, if you're YouTube and you want to censor people who are pro-Trump, you're like, wait, but yet pro-Trump, he's like, wait, you can't censor this guy because he actually has a video that we like that actually pushes the narrative we want. So I think it kind of works in his favor, the fact that he's open-minded and he doesn't care which political party you're in. He's going to expose you regardless. And I've done the same thing where I've had people like Roger Stone way on the right. He's been on my show 3 times if you count the Union of Unwanted. And then I've had people on like Greg Palast on before, and I've had Robbie Martin on, and Lee Camp, which actually I was talking to today, and I think is coming back on. So it's to me, it's like, I think that's kind of one of the things that's helped people like myself and James, is that we, you can't just pigeonhole us as like Q people or MAGA people. It's like, no, we're willing to talk to anybody, and it happens, and I've said this over and over again, like, it just happens that the people who are pro-Trump, who are MAGA people or Q people, they're exposing the same shit I'm exposing, and we just happen to be in the same fight, and I'm okay with that. I don't care if you're for Trump or anti-Trump. Like, are you anti-big pharma? Then you're my friend. Are you anti wars? Then you're my friend. And what the crazy thing is, like, so many people on the left, like you would think would be on the same boat. I've done shows on Kratom. A lot of people on the left were the, like, pro marijuana, pro Kratom, pro natural remedies, anti Monsanto, anti GMO type people. Those were lefties. And now it's like, wait, we all agree that government and big pharma don't give a fuck about your health, and all of a sudden they do. Like, why aren't you on my side? It's confusing.
Yeah, and I think, again, just to wrap up, because obviously we're out of time almost, but I think the real challenge here is for people like ourselves is just keeping a balanced head at the moment. Certainly over the Christmas period, I think it's started to really drain people like us, and also I think the information sources that are coming in are so thick and fast, and there's a job that we have to do as well to, digest some of that coming in. I mean, you can really freak yourself out if you start to get into the Operation Lockstep stuff and, all these sort of Rockefeller documents, which I try to just think are hopefully a great idea they had, which won't never get anywhere. But yeah, I think there's a real job, and this is why I've got a lot of time for your show, Ricky, where it's just about keeping a level head, remembering why we're all here, remembering the people around us. And, that's why it's good to hear reference your family from time to time, because I'm in sort of construction as well. So I know, there's a big job and a long day, and for you to come back later on and then sort of try and drive this part of the world as well. I've got a big level of respect for that. So thank you for everything you do and for the opportunity again to partake today. It's been great.
Thanks, James. Thanks. Matt, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I just want to echo that. Thank you for what you're doing with all this and getting this information out there and the guests you have on and the way you interview them. It's great, man. I really appreciate it. And now that I get to, I guess, kind of see you face to face, thank you. You had responded to a Facebook message that I sent you about some podcast information and Podomatic and using that. So yeah, it was you and Charlie Robinson and Sam really inspired me and my buddy to start a podcast too. And it's awesome, man. Appreciate what you're doing and everything you're doing for the community.
It sounds crazy, but everybody should start a podcast. It just, there can
I
never
agree.
be enough people out there fighting back, because it is a way of fighting back. It's a way of, like I always say, when Charlie started his podcast, he was joking around and he's like, oh, he's like, I'm like, congratulations for starting a podcast, Charlie. He's like, oh yeah, but he's like the world needs another podcast. I'm like, Charlie, that's the wrong attitude. Like, you can never have enough podcasts, because somebody who is looking for answers or whatnot, or maybe not even looking, and might run into it and run into a podcast or a conversation that changes their outlook on the world. They might not run into my show, but they might run into yours. They might not run into your show, but they'll run into somebody else's. So it's like the more opportunities that we give them to run into these conversations, the better. So I think you can never have enough podcasts, and I think they're rewarding. Like, it's like this conversation, right? Like, if we didn't call it a podcast, it'd be a hangout. We'd all be hanging. If we all lived in the same, well, in this case, the same continent, then we would, we could be at the pub. We'd have a drink. We would bullshit about what's going on in the world, and that's what people like about them. It's just in those conversations, when you have them in your personal life with your friends, they're rewarding. You feel like, okay, as I verbally explain how I feel on a topic, I'm also rearranging it and figuring out how I feel, in the process of trying to talk about it. Because a lot of times, like, things make sense in our head, and then the second you start trying to explain it, you're like, okay, well, it was much easier to understand in my brain, and now that I'm trying to put it into words, I'm struggling a little bit. So I think it's a great exercise. Like, that's why I think long form conversations are so important. Like, some years ago, I had CJ Werleman, who's from Australia, and he's an author, kind of famous in the atheist movement, and some of it also is, some of the atheists disliked him because he kind of went to battle with Harris and Sam Harris and some of the other atheists. But we talked about pub culture and how important that is, and how America doesn't have that, because you think about it, right? Like the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, like these things were debated probably at a pub, or at least drinking, between these thinkers or friends or people who work together, and that's how you filter out the bad ideas with the good ideas. You discuss it, you put it out there so it can be challenged. And if you can't, to me, like, when ideas are challenged, you defending it will really, it's your way of figuring out, like, okay, is this a good idea, or am I married to a bad idea and I don't know it because it's never been challenged? So I think that the importance of long form conversation are so. I mean, when I talked to Mickey Willis, I talked to him for 3 hours, or 2.5, whatever it may be. When I had Clint Richardson on, he was like on for 2 hours. Like, some of the most interesting parts of the conversation were like an hour and a half in. And you'll never get there, to those deep into those conversations. Even today, I had a memory hold. I had him on for 2 hours. Like, we went. Some of my favorite parts of the conversation today were real late in the conversation. And if you cut it out at, like, a half an hour or 15 minutes, like you see on the news, it's like little 1 minute segment, like, oh, explain your position on COVID. Well, we got to go to a commercial break. It's like, what the fuck? You can't explain anything in a minute. At least I can. I'm an idiot. I'm like, you got to give me time to go on these long rants where I just lose track of even what I'm talking about in the first place. But but yeah, it's just one of those things where it's necessary. And it's not, even though podcasting is kind of considered new, when you look at pub culture and you look at, like, the way men debated things, or women, debated things, how people debated things and figured out and rearranged their ideas, like, it was long form conversation. We didn't have TV or cell phones that forced us to have short attention spans. We sat around and we talked, and so even though it's a new idea, it's really kind of utilizing what's worked for many years, and that's long form conversation.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on. I mean, the pub culture is huge in Australia, and while they've slowly unlocked the pubs, we're now in a different world where we're sitting apart from each other. You know, there's the scary states where people are covering themselves up, but you know, having that dialogue, as I've said earlier, with the common person, you know, is where things have become lacking. And again, you know, we've been lucky to all link up with your content and others, and so we might be still isolated, but we're hearing the right thing. But I just find that, you know, we used to have this banter in the office, but we don't go to the office anymore. And we used to have this banter on the sporting field, but we don't sort of play much sport anymore. So it's really just, you know, you're spot on, getting back into that framework. We can have a chat, have a debate, you know, learn from them, they learn from us. You know, it's a two-way combo. And that's where, like, we've just lost the ability to have these discussions publicly. And we need to get back to that fundamental part of living. And then hopefully one day people turn off the TV and we're back to a better world. But yeah, the biggest thing for me at the moment is just everyone turning off the TV. You know, if I look outside my window right now, it's a beautiful world I'm living in, but the second I go upstairs and then put that TV back on, you know, I'll then be back in this state. So whatever they've done, I've got a lot of credit for them, because they're a very powerful, you know, being, as we all know, it's sort of Captain Obvious. But it's just the fact that it has such power now to drive the world we're in. And we all knew this, but having observed it and then realizing how powerless we are has been probably the wake-up call, where you just can't sort of lay idle. You've got to actually agitate on the other side, or it'll just keep going like an expressway in that direction.
Yeah, well, the thing is, before we could share ideas and research things I've been reading or watching, you know, we get together, we talk about those things. But now you have literally forced us to get all our information from the TV, you know, and it's like, because now we don't have the ability to get together with friends and family and discuss these things, or at least you're putting some, you know, you're preventing us to some extent to do those things, and those opportunities are slim now. So it's like, okay, well, if I'm not getting my information from like my intelligent friend that I get together with, and when we have a drink, we share our knowledge or research, then that means I'm watching TV. And then, you know, it's like that saying, if you don't watch the news, you're uninformed. If you do watch the news, you're misinformed. I mean, that's exactly what's going on. You know, it's like you watch the news and you think the world's fine, or at least getting better. And the second you put on the TV, it's like, no, I guess not. I guess the world's ending again. But even the height of the world ending, like I was telling people, I had people contacting me from all over the world, and they're like, oh, Massachusetts must be so bad. You're in like one of the worst spots ever. And I'm like, I'm talking to nurses. I'm talking to friends of mine who work at the local hospitals in Springfield. And no, the world's not ending. So the news is convincing you that it's ending. But if you look around, there's no evidence of it. So where is it ending? You know, so it's amazing the power of the media and how they can convince us things. I mean, one thing people have to remember is MSNBC stands for Microsoft. You know, it's like, you know, Bill Gates. I mean, he's everywhere. You know, it's like he's having influence everywhere. James Corbett's documentary, when I had him on to talk about his Bill Gates documentary, we talked about that, like how, you know, he and I both were like surprised on how much we knew he was influential in regards to news and media and medicine. But to that extent, it was just like beyond my understanding of like how influential this guy was in all aspects of our world, you know, medicine, news, and whatnot. But
well, the good news is here, so I'll make a final comment. We've got our first peaceful protest directly outside one of our main TV stations here in Melbourne. I think it's this Saturday. So I think the good thing is the wider public is working out, you know, the framework of the world we live in now, and you know, you can spend all day writing letters to politicians and, you know, doing all these things and doing petitions, and there's a lot of great ideas, and then we need to focus on great ideas without a doubt. We can't just sort of, you know, talk all day. But I think I'm interested to see, and it won't achieve nothing first time around, but just changing that focus around to back onto the media here is critical, because you know, we have been the absolute, we create a lot of sheep here generally for our agriculture and our livestock, but yeah, we've had more sheep walking around clothed and sort of driving cars than you'd want to see. And so I hope they're aware that's a critical part of the communication. They're getting the information they're receiving and taking the time to just, you know, understand those other sources. I gave Charlie's book to a couple of people for Christmas, you know, as a better way to, as I said earlier, try and get them to digest in their own time. And I need to touch base shortly to see how they're progressing. I expect probably people haven't read too much yet, but you know, these are the ideas that we're just going to keep throwing out there to pepper away.
Awesome. You guys have any final comment or questions or anything you guys want to add?
Yeah, when are you going to do this again?
Well, it went well, so probably soon.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
Awesome.
I'm gonna. Well, the cool thing is you guys are gonna be able to refresh the RSS feed, and you're gonna be able to hear yourself on iTunes when it's released. Which I know, like the first time I did it, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, I can't believe I'm like, I can listen to myself on like a podcast app. It was pretty wild, to go on Spotify or iTunes or whatever. And well, at the time, Spotify wasn't involved in podcasts, but iTunes was like a big deal. Like just seeing yourself on iTunes was like, well, what the hell? This is crazy, So, so I think that was one of the things I was really excited about was like, I'm like, some people haven't started a podcast yet, but they do have things to say, and this kind of gives you guys a way of like being heard, because I have a lot of faith in the average person because I am the average person, and people have faith in me for some weird reason. So it's just, to me, like the idea of having just listeners of the show chime in and share their thoughts. I wasn't too nervous about like you guys having well thought out opinions and perspectives on what's going on, because I think that's one of the things people relate with me is that I am the average Joe who just like you guys, just trying to do something fulfilling and trying to spark these conversations. I was doing it in my own personal life before I had the podcast, and now I'm just doing it with the podcast. But I don't feel any different than you guys. I'm just average person, just doing my part. And again, I think we can all do our part, even if it is something as simple as having a personal conversation with somebody that you think you can maybe get through to and whatnot. And I think a lot of times it seems helpless, and then you sit down, you talk to somebody logically, and you just talk about what's going on. It's, it doesn't take long before, because it's so obvious, it doesn't take long before they realize like, yeah, this isn't making sense, because there's so many examples of how it's not making sense.
But setting up these networks, I think, as well, Ricky, which obviously this is the first time someone's sort of turned the camera around a little bit, is great, because I can now track down Matt's podcast, and I can sort of, keep linking into this group. And, if there's any smarts or any, insights that are gained somewhere, or, there's a heads up that, we can afford each other. I think it's good for mental health, good for, general vibe, and actually getting to a better spot. Because I think I've absorbed so much information in the last 6 months. I consider myself the guru of most of these dark topics. But what solutions do I have? Probably, I'll count those on a couple of fingers. And how active are those? Probably even less so. So I think, what I'm really taking out of this is there's other like-minded people. And, apart from just listening to the goods that you're serving up, we can also, have that dialogue once in a while to actually shoot the breeze. So, yeah, thanks for everything, guys. And nice to meet you, Matt, and others. And I'll leave you to it. I'm at work, so I better go.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. You're great. Ciao.
Take care.
Nice to meet you. Bye. One thing I should have asked him before we all went is how we could all get in touch, if there's a Twitter handle or a Facebook or something like that.
So what I can do is maybe I can do something via Patreon, because obviously you guys are all on Patreon. If everybody wants to like send me I don't know what they feel comfortable with, that email or whatever, and or just write me on Patreon and let me know if you want to connect with other people that are on the show. Maybe we could start like an email thread, or I don't know, a Facebook group. Well, not everybody's on Facebook, I'm sure. But yeah, but you're right. We should figure out a way, Matt, to keep everybody connected. And obviously they can connect on these shows, but if they want to stay connected outside of this, and something that James said that I think is super important too, is there is a sense of like therapy in this. Like, I think some people just, it feels good just to talk about this without feeling like you're going to be judged or criticized, and you're openly talking to people who are going to understand your feelings and your research and the things you've been just your perspective on things. I think there is a sense of therapy. Like, you feel better getting it off your chest, and then talking about it. Because I think in many cases people do feel like, if I talk about it, what type of response am I going to get? Is it going to spark an argument? Are people going to look at me like I'm crazy or whatnot? So to kind of build a little bit of a community where you have a safe place to kind of say what's on your mind without worrying about being judged, and in many cases having the positive feedback that people are thinking the exact same way, I think it is nice.
Yeah, I think that'd be great if we could all keep in touch through this. And yeah, if you could put these on, I'll be on every single one.
Awesome.
That'd be great. Yeah,
Like, sounds like we're gonna become friends, Matt.
see how it evolves. Basically neighbors, right?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And Brett Venant lives in New Hampshire too. He's been on the show a bunch of times. He's a great dude, and he's friends with Richard Grove and whatnot. And yeah, he's another guy who's, I think he initially lived in Massachusetts and then ended up going to New Hampshire. But yeah, we're all pretty close. I mean, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Massachusetts. It's a couple hours away from each other, so it's not far at all. But yeah, let's think about that. Let's so people listening, if you guys have and people participating, if there's a creative way of maybe starting, I know with like the Union of the Unwanted and some of the other things I'm involved in, they start like telegrams, where they you can start a telegram and then you can join it. And so I don't know if you know what a telegram is, Matt, but it's like kind of like a group chat. So it's like everybody you can jump in, you create like a private chat, and then people can basically text message. It's almost like text messaging in this chat or talking in a chat, and everybody who has that link can join in. So we could do something like that where it'd be like, a Patreon, Telegram, and then everybody who participates can get the link, and then basically you can sign up and we can all chat in there. It'll be like a group chat just for the people who are on Patreon. That might be a good idea. I could share it on the Patreon page and whatnot. Yeah, so see, talking does help you figure shit out. Well,
yeah, it's therapy. It doesn't take much to do it either. Like for those who are thinking about doing podcasts and whatnot, me and my buddy got 2 USB mics off of Amazon. I think it was a total of $30. Plugged them into my Mac, and we sit around his kitchen table, crack beers, and just go through the Twitter feed and just talk shit about everything that's popping up. It's kind of fun.
Have you started already, Matt?
Yeah. We're a few episodes in. Yeah.
So you want to let people know what the name of the show is and where it's available?
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, it's the Resistance Chronicle. It's available everywhere that we can put it. We definitely on Apple. We started out on Podomatic. Thanks to you. I signed up for the Pro membership there. We got a web page. It's got a blog that's kind of in the making. So yeah, we're only 5 episodes into it, and yeah, it's just us hanging out, talking shit, and kind of therapy. Yeah, makes us feel better after we leave the table at the end of the night.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I say that all the time. Every time I walk away from one of these shows, I feel better than I did when I went to them. Like, I just feel like, wow, I'm talking to like-minded people. There is hope in the world. It just, and sometimes just getting some of the shit that's been on your mind off your chest and just, discussing it, I think makes you feel better. There's so many times, there's people talk about how, I was talking to somebody about this recently. I don't know if it was on the podcast or not, about how, like, if you want to avoid arguments with people, like if you're really upset emotionally, write something, like write out the text message or email, write it all out the way you want to write it, and then delete it and don't send it. And that little act of just like writing it out makes you feel better. And even though you didn't send it, it's just like like you said, it's just another method of like getting something off your chest and talking about it. So yeah, I think it's essential. But definitely good luck with the podcast. If you need any advice or you need any help or you need anything, let me know. Like I always tell listeners, I'm like, hit me up and let me know. And if eventually you want to do guests, let me know. I'll be more than happy to come on. Do that,
that'd be awesome.
If in the future, if you want to do that. And thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it. Ash, are you still there? You got any final words?
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry, I've just really enjoyed listening to you guys. This is definitely therapy for me. I like listening to like-minded people and hearing your guys' opinions, because I pretty much agree with everything you guys have to say. But yeah, thank you for doing this. I'll definitely jump on some more. Whenever the next one is, I'll definitely jump on. And Matt, I found your podcast on Spotify, so I will definitely be giving that a listen.
Awesome.
Great. Yeah, maybe some people who are listening are gonna end up joining in the podcast. A nice little a bump. It's funny because I do, now you brought that up, I do remember talking to you in regards to Podomatic, and I'm glad that I even asked for because that would have been a shame if we didn't at least say the name of your podcast before.
That would have been okay. I didn't want to come on here to do that, so I really appreciate that. So
yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, let's also people listening, let's if you guys want to start a Telegram, let me know. If there's another idea that I haven't thought about yet in regards to maybe a way of everybody staying connected, let me know and let's do it. Let's like start a little community. I think we all get a lot out of this, and like I said, it's a great way of showing my appreciation for people who are supporting the show. You know, like many of you guys, I work a typical job that I hate, and so you know, the goal is you know, the power of community is so important. And you know, it is one of those things where like if everybody contributes a little bit, then you know, then you don't have to contribute a lot, and if everybody pitches in, then you know, we can make a difference. So you know, it's awesome. It's awesome to also put faces to the download numbers, because sometimes you see download numbers and you're like, who the fuck's listening to this? You know, so to actually meet the people who are listening, I think it is really cool too. So thanks everybody who showed up and participated and listened, and keep a lookout for this show, hopefully in the next day or two, and you'll be able to listen to yourself. Well, Matt listening to himself on iTunes isn't new, but maybe some of the other participants haven't heard themselves on a podcast yet. So make sure to listen to this, and we'll all keep in touch. And thanks again, guys, from the bottom of my heart. I truly appreciate the support, and I appreciate you guys showing up. I honestly didn't know if anybody was going to show up. I was worried I was going to talk to myself for a while. So I appreciate it, and have a great night, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
All right,
Ricky.
thanks a
Have
lot.
a good one.
Thanks. Take care.
Nice to meet you, Ash.
Yeah, later, Matt.